I just start briefly. My name is Joseph Klinger. I'm the CEO of TCW. TCW is the research and consulting center of the German Gas and Water Association, and we are based in Karlsruhe. It's near the French border in the southern area of Germany. Francesco, just some words from your side, because you are the co-leader and I'm the leader of the Value in Water team. If you could just give a short introduction of your personal.
Thank you very much, Joseph, and welcome everybody. My name is Francesco Fattone, and I'm professor of chemical environmental engineering at the Marchi Polytechnic University in Italy. And I've been coordinating large innovation actions about resource recovery and safe reuse from renewable water cycle. So here we are bringing our multi-level, multi-sectoral expertise to support the multi-level impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Francesco. Julia?
Yeah, my name is Julia Rink. I'm the R&D coordinator at TCW, Technology Center Water in Germany. And yeah, also being active in the Vision Leader team, Value in Water. And I think we have some really nice sessions today. I'm very much looking forward to the discussions.
I think you're muted, Joseph.
Sorry, I'm still muted. These are the technical things. After we have had the short introduction, just a short introduction on the agenda. We have very interesting presentations today. We have the presentation on the Interreg program, on the water test network. We have an insight on the VOW project, and we have the living labs and resource recovery activities, Erin. And we have with us also Wim van Weersen, who is the responsible person in Water Europe for innovation, who gives us an insight on Water Europe and living labs. And especially our focus today is on value in water and living labs. And also Jens Prisum will give us some ideas on activities in Copenhagen. So that's the short overview over the next, let's say, 90 minutes. And if we start with the first speaker, this will be Matthew Thompson. Matthew, you are the project officer at the Interreg Northwest Europe program, and you worked in different positions in innovation and resource efficiency. And your previous experience was also working with the local governments and the waste management, and also working together with academia. So I will stop sharing my screen, and hopefully, Matthew, everything works and you can now share your screen for your presentation. Please go ahead.
For the introduction, I think everything seems to be working. Or not. Okay, thanks. Hello, my name is Matthew Thompson. I'm a project officer at the Joint Secretariat for the Interreg Northwest Europe program. We're based in Lille in the north of France. I'm briefly just going to talk about the current program. Living labs in the context of Interreg. I'm not an expert on living labs, so it'll be very much a lay project officer's point of view. And then briefly about the new program, so what's sort of coming in the future. For those of you that don't know Interreg, it's a transnational program, and we cover Northwest Europe. The aim of the program, the current one from 2014 to 2020, was to create a key economic player in the world and to create an attractive place to work and live with high levels of innovation and sustainability and cohesion. So the current program is running till 2023, barring any more global pandemics. We cover, say, Northwest Europe. We have 102 projects. two of which are here today, and two of which I follow, the Water Test Network and WOW. In total, we've got over sort of 1,000 project partners, a 50-50 split between public and private. And this includes education, academia, research, local, regional, national governments, SMEs, large businesses, NGOs, public interest groups. We've got a budget of 376 million ERDF, but that's actually about 60% of project funding. We only cover that amount. So in total, about 620 million is being spent by projects in Northwest Europe. As you can see from the map, we tend to have partners evolve from all over Northwest Europe, but we do actually allow participation from organizations outside that area. That's why you can see Spain, Denmark, Austria, Italy are also included. As a program, we have three main themes. So we have innovation, low carbon, resource efficiency. Innovation theme, the priority was to enhance innovation performance of SMEs throughout Northwest Europe. Under low carbon, we looked at, we have implementation of low carbon energy and climate protection strategies, the uptake of low carbon technologies, products, processes, and services, and then to facilitate the implementation of low carbon solutions in transport. And the final priority, resource efficiency, aims to optimize material and resource use in Northwest Europe. Like I said, it's interesting. I've got two projects here. One, the Water Test Network actually fits under innovation. The WOW project fits under resource efficiency, and some of the other ones we'll talk about later is under low carbon. So there's not one particular place where Living Labs fit. So what does actually Interreg say about Living Labs? Not much. When I looked into the program documentation, I could only find one reference to Living Labs, and that was in relation to how investments can be done. However, there are a number of program elements that we have in our program. There are a number of elements in the program which really lend themselves to Living Labs. I mean, the overall aim of Interreg program is fostering new solutions in Northwest Europe through transnational collaboration. When we talk about transnational collaboration, this is about different actors and stakeholders in different countries working together to address a common objective. This can provide a framework for cooperation, along with 60% of the funding. And the application process, so when a partnership comes together to fill in an application form, they have to be very clear about what their objective is and what sort of results they expect. The transnationality is really baked into the program, so projects need to be designed, developed, and implemented together. No project can be approved if it's not transnational in nature. And so this brings together different participants from Northwest Europe, the design, development, and implementation, but also the stakeholders and beneficiaries also need to be identified and reflected in this project application. So this brings together a whole range of different stakeholders. These are the stakeholders that the partnership identifies to achieve their objective. As I said before, they can come from such a diverse background, so public, private, SMEs, enterprises, NGOs, whatever is actually needed to achieve the goal of the project, but also necessary for the rollout of the results. You know, what are the long-term effects of a project? There's a real focus on co-creation. So in the development stage, we want to see that the partnership have sort of come together and created a project jointly, but that also has to be reflected in the operation of the project. So we start on that transnational design development, but when the project goes into operation, we need to see that focus on the joint creation of solutions to joint transnational problems. The results, they need to be clear and available. Because Interreg's a publicly funded project, funded by the European taxpayer, we also like to ensure that the results are open and freely distributed. We also have a real emphasis on addressing current problems, real-world problems, and real-world implementation. In previous programs, there's quite a heavy emphasis on research. You're probably familiar with TRL, technical readiness levels, so it's not always the best tool to use, but we sort of focus for TRL level 3 to 8. We want to see that there's actually a real development of the product. If a product's ready to go to market, it's not something we're interested in. So that it needs to be sort of real world work. The program provides a place for the creation and sharing of investments. So one of the things I keep coming across with the Living Labs is sort of the replicated investments in different locations, and the program can help pay for that material. The investments don't need to be the same in each place. They can be different, but they need to be used in a transnational manner with the whole partnership and all the relevant stakeholders from that area. I managed to identify 3 projects that have Living Labs as very much a key part in their explanation. We've got the Water Test Network, who kindly invited me here today. Another project we have is called Certification D, and this project supports SMEs to develop and market products for people with dementia. So it's a collaborative approach with partners from research and care institutions, SMEs, and people with dementia. And the idea is that there are different test facilities across the project partnership where products can be tested in different sorts of environments. And that project fits under innovation, whilst HeatNet aims to develop and test 6 local district heating and cooling networks. The project has 6 living labs to develop, test, and demonstrate through investments the HeatNet model. And that project fits under low carbon. One of the things I found really interesting when I was looking at living labs is that there are so many elements that can fit into a whole range of projects. And currently have a portfolio of 16 different projects in innovation and resource efficiency. And I would say at least half have some or many elements that would make them actually fit into a living lab. So if you're interested in sort of seeing this, we have all this information on our project website. You can see the different projects. As for the future, there is a new programming coming from the period 2021 to 2027. New regions are joining Interreg, so we've got more of Germany and the Netherlands, but the UK is not participating in the future program, which is a shame. There's additional information on our website on this. We're currently developing the process. We're currently sort of running the stakeholder consultation. So it will then go to national committees. The NTF, that's the new task force for the Northwest Europe task force for the program, meet on a regular basis. The next step, once it's sort of finalized, will be to send it to the Commission, who will approve it hopefully towards the end of the year, the beginning of next year, and then we'll launch our first call in spring 2022. We're going to be having 5 priorities, but now there's more of an emphasis on promoting a green, smart, and just transition for all of Northwest Europe territories, with the aim of balanced development and making regions more resilient. So it's a bit of a shift from the previous objective of the program. The topics will be sort of climate adaptation, biodiversity, citizens engagement. These first 3 priorities are pretty much have been agreed now. So we've got smart climate resilience for Northwest Europe, smart and just energy transition, and towards a place-based circular economy. We now also have an additional 2 priorities. These are still being developed, so they will be presented at our webinar next week on innovation. But these can change the specific details. So we have a priority 4 on fostering innovation capacity in Northwest Europe region, and also for providing a transition to a sustainably inclusive transition to a socially inclusive, sustainable and resilient society. If you want to find any more additional information, here are the sort of contact details, obviously on the internet, LinkedIn, Twitter and YouTube. And that's me. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Matthew, for the introduction and the, let's say, also the new Interreg program. If you have any question, you can write it in the chat and I try to pick it up. We still have some minutes and therefore I've one question to Matthew or one remark. From our point of view, this means the value in water team, priority 3 in the new program seems to fit very well in our activities. That means the Living Lab could be a very useful tool co-financed by Interreg. Did I realize that correctly?
Yes, the big difference, well, maybe not big differences. I mean, the first 3 priorities have some similarities with the existing program, but again, when I was looking at what living labs are, they do actually fit in across all the priorities. So I don't, depending on either if you want to take a sectoral approach, so if you're looking at pollution, water recovery, or if you're resource recovery, or if you're going to address climate change, or if you're doing living labs in terms of social innovation, just a case of picking the right topic and having a clear objective of what you want.
Okay, thanks. There's a question from Jens Prism. How will your living lab survive after your support has ended? That means the support by Interreg. Good question.
Not sure. It's not really aimed for me, is it?
The point is, do you have any expectations as Interreg program that the living lab you co-financed for the start will survive after you after the, let's say, the co-financing is finished from Interreg side? Or do you say, okay, it's financed for 3 years and what is happening afterwards is not in our interest?
That's no. Obviously, an ideal project is one. An ideal transnational project is one that doesn't need to come to us for money, because it has a capacity to carry on its own. One of the things that we did with the current program is that we asked projects to look at their long-term effects. So where do they want to go in the future? So we fund activities during the project lifetime so that they can explore opportunities to carry on in the future. Obviously, once we finish funding, we follow up, but there's not much we can do. I think probably the water test network Ruth might have some comments on the future.
Okay, thanks for this clarification. You already mentioned and introduced, let's say, the activity on the water test network, and there's no further question in the chat. So let's move ahead, and we have the example you already mentioned, and we have the three colleagues who are presenting this activity. The first one will be Ruth McNeil. She's project manager with Scottish Water, and she's managing the Horizon, the European funded Interreg project, the water test network, and afterwards we'll have the, let's say, 2 innovation chasers, one from Germany, it's my colleague Beate Hamsch. She's responsible here at DSW for the drinking water microbiological department. And the third one is Charlotte Burkhardt. She's project coordinator at Flacqua, and she's the Belgium innovation chasers. So I assume you, Ruth, you will start with the whole presentation, and again I will stop sharing my screen, and now it will be your turn.
Thank you very much, Joseph, for that introduction. I will attempt to share my screen now. Hopefully that will come up on people's screens there. So I'm Ruth McNeil. I am the project manager for the Water Test Network. So I'll start off the presentation and give a bit of an overview of the Water Test Network before handing over to Beata and Charlotte, who are two of the innovation chasers, and their roles you will come to know in a little bit. Okay, so the Water Test Network is a transnational collaboration where we've created a network of testing facilities across Northwest Europe. Our goal is that we can speed up market uptake of innovative water technology by making it easier to test and verify innovations in order for them to overcome that reluctance that there tends to be in the water sector around unproven technologies. We do this through our transnational network of testing facilities, which enables SMEs to fine-tune and test technologies in a real setting so that they can develop products that are market-ready and linked to the key sector needs that they've identified. So the Water Test Network was allocated funding through the Interreg Northwest Europe programme under innovation, which Matthew mentioned earlier. And we receive European Regional Development Fund co-financing for 60% of the €6.02 million project, which is gratefully received. We are made up of 7 project partners, 5 sub-partners and 5 associated partners across 6 countries in Northwest Europe. And we provide those 14 testing facilities between us. So on the map there, you'll see the rough location of some of them. So we've got the James Hutton Limited Laboratory in Scotland. We've got Scottish Water's 2 development centres on water and wastewater, also in Scotland. CEW and Water Alliance's 6 demo sites across the Netherlands, as well as WSVV's Wastewater Centre in Apeldoorn. Vito partners with Ghent University and De Water Group for the testing facilities, the 2 testing facilities in Belgium. TZW's Water Technology Centre is the one in Germany, and BRGM provide access to the prime demonstration site in France. So there is a good range of testing facilities across there. And we provide, and each of those testing facilities can provide different types of water that can be tested, but across the 14 we have a fairly large range of water types that are accessible by SMEs to come and test. So up on the screen there are a few of the examples of water types. So you've got tap water, hospital wastewater, raw water, sludge, vegetable processing water. There really is, and we can ship in industrial wastewater sources as well. So really, anything you need, we can try and source within the network. So we provide the support in mainly through innovation support vouchers. So this is fully funded support packages which we tailor to the needs of the SME, up to a €50,000 max of in-kind support. So 2 types of vouchers mainly are what we provide. So the first is access to a testing facility. Can be a few days in a lab to several weeks at a full-scale water plant, depending on need. But we can also support with verification and validation to help with market entry. So SMEs can be supported to get ISO or similar verification. And we've just added environmental technology verification to the service we provide through the James Hutton Limited. So again, a lot of support on the verification and validation as well as the testing side of things. So who can apply and when? So it is SME focused, but all SMEs from across Northwest Europe can apply. And for the purposes of the project, we define an SME as an organisation with no more than 250 employees and a turnover of at most €50 million. Applications for the innovation support vouchers can be submitted at any point in time from now until summer 2022, which is when the application window finishes. The project itself ends in December 2022. So between summer and December allows us time to finish off the trials that we've got in our network. We've tried to keep the application process fairly simple. The first step is you contact one of our innovation chasers. So you will hear from 2 of them today, and I'll introduce you the others in the next slide. But they start off by talking you through a stage 1 application, which is very simple. It's 2 documents. The first is an SME or de minimis declaration. which basically you just say that you're an SME and you haven't received more than €200,000 of in-kind of support in the past 3 years. And then the stage 1 application itself is just simply some company information, product summary, and what kind of support you're looking for. Is it testing or is it verification? We can usually get through that in less than a week. Then once you've done your stage 2 application, the Innovation Chaser takes you through into the stage 1. You go into stage 2. This is a bit more detailed. You're supported in it by the Innovation Chaser. So they will talk you through the application and the information that you need. The more information you provide at this stage, the better. But we're asking for things like your technology readiness levels, your risks, and looking at a testing plan. Again, the Innovation Chaser can support on that. The stage 2 application can take as long as the SME needs. But once it's been submitted, we try and review these submissions within 3 weeks. So it shouldn't be it shouldn't take too long to get a decision back. And if approved, the Innovation Chaser then hands you over to the testing facility where you're going to test, and they work with you in order to get you onto site. And that can again happen very quickly in as little as 1.5 weeks in some examples. So I've said Innovation Chaser a few times, and their job title sounds exciting. So I'll introduce you to the 8 that we have working on the project. So Charlotte works in Belgium, and we've got Beata is the German Innovation Chaser. You'll hear from them both a little bit later. You've got Catherine in France and Liam in Ireland. And then you've got Jordi and Peter Jan, both in the Netherlands. Roger is in Scotland, and my colleague Kerry, although based with Scottish Water in Scotland, she does work with SMEs across the UK. So they're the Innovation Chasers that you speak to as a first port of call. And now you will hear from our Innovation Chaser in Germany, Beata.
Yes. Thank you, Ruth. So my name is Beata Hamsch, and I come from TZW. As you've heard, TZW is the German partner within Water Test Network. TZW is Technology Center of Water. It belongs to the German Association of Gas and Water, and we are doing mainly applied research for the water industry as a whole. Next slide, please. Ruth, could you? Yes, thank you. I decided to take you a little bit through what we have to do as Innovation Chaser. You have seen here just now that we are 8 Innovation Chasers as a whole, so 1 from each of the countries, Belgium, France, Germany, and Ireland, and 2 from the Netherlands and from UK. The role of the Innovation Chaser within Water Test Network is to be the first contact point for the SME and taking in the respective country. So German SMEs would come to me, French SMEs to Catherine, and Belgium SMEs would come to Charlotte. And we then give support to the SME and taking them through the whole application process, which is mainly work when you go to the stage 2 part of it. Because there we have to develop the detailed test plan. So next slide, please. So you see that this support, of course, is depending on the needs of the SME. So we make a test plan especially tailored to the need of the SME. And during this process, we, as an Innovation Chaser, we discuss with the SME which facility is the best one to suit their needs. And this is the important thing that they really can look and get onto a transnational network, and an SME can access facilities all through the Northwestern Europe region. So in this example here on the map, you would see there is an SME in France going on to a wastewater utility in Scotland, and there they could test their wastewater technology, for instance. Next slide, please. So coming to our test facility in Germany, we have our rooms, our test facility directly in our own building here at TZW. TZW, the main department, is situated in Karlsruhe. Here you see the light blue region is where we are situated, so it's more or less in southern Germany, at the River Rhine, near the border to France. And of course, we have continuous access to drinking water, but we also can bring in other waters, but then not in that large volumes and flow throughs. We have all different technologies in pilot scale available, like flocculations and filtration processes, activated carbon, but also membrane filtration or disinfection processes. We have the test facility, and this technology is there available where we can put in the new products, but we also have in our building all the laboratory facilities. So everything from chemistry, inorganic, organic, microbiology, molecular biology, we can offer all these different kinds of analytical techniques to be used for the testing activities. So next slide, please. Well, in the beginning of the project, that was before Corona came over us, we even could have some local workshops to make the water test network a little known by the SMEs, and we invited SMEs here in our building and showed them what we could do within water test network. Of course, in 2020 and 21, so far we couldn't do this these workshops in presence, but only webinars, as all of us. Next slide, please. Yeah, and here you can have a look at some of how it looks like in our test facility. And indeed, the picture in the middle of the lower row is a test of 3 instruments which came over water test network, and we are looking if they are working and if they are doing what they are planned to do. So next slide, please. This is an overview on the applications we had from German SMEs so far. So all in all, up to now, 11 stage 1 applications, they were all accepted. And 6 companies were mainly for wastewater, and we tried to give transnational applications. So some of them went to Scotland, to the Netherlands, and to Belgium. The 5 companies mainly dealing with drinking water, they all can do their stage 2 at TZW. And the incoming stage 2 applications, they were accepted. And so at the moment, we have 2 products which are in the test. So that's from my side. And now I give over to Charlotte. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Charlotte Boeckhaert. I work for Vlaqua. We are an independent department within Vito, and I am the innovation chaser for Belgium. Ruth, you can go to the next slide. Okay, so Ruth has already explained you that SMEs can access our water test network by innovation vouchers, but we also have a second system in which we launch innovation challenges. So the idea is that there is a water problem out there. It's encountered by water utilities or by industry, and we try to define the problem, and we invite SMEs to come and to show their technology which offer a solution for the problem given. And we hope by doing so that they convince potential customers to apply their technology. Next slide, Ruth. So we will launch 5 innovation challenges through the lifetime of the project. And now at this stage, we are already at the 4th challenge. So in the past, we have done a challenge about sludge processing, one about pharmaceutical and PFAS removal. And currently our challenge on the treatment of brines is alive. And then later on, we will launch a last and final challenge. Okay, the next slide, Ruth. So regarding the challenge now on brine treatments, we are actually looking for SMEs who offer a technology to valorize brines. So brines coming from membrane filtration or brines coming from geothermal energy processes in Europe. The technology should be at least at TRL 4 or higher. So it should be at least validated in the lab and be able to go through to larger scale testing. And we are looking for a cost-effective and sustainable solution. Now, if you are an SME and you want to apply and you are a winner of our challenge, then we will give you access to a test site which has brines, that's considerable volumes, and we will give you support for the test. So we ask you to bring your technology to the test site, but all the support that needs to be given for the test, for example, an operator, the electricity analysis that needs to be done, and so on, this is all offered and paid via the Interreg project. And if you are successful, then we will offer you the opportunity to show your results to potential end users. So we organize webinars, we have our newsletter, and we will also allow you to attend or to join us in a booth at an international water-related fair. Don't know when that fair will take place, but anyhow, we are planned to attend one. So if you're interested in the brine challenge, then we welcome you to submit a stage 1 and stage 2 application as explained by Ruth. The deadline is the 5th of September, and you can find more information here on the link which is shown on the slide. Yes, Ruth, go ahead to the next slide. Okay, and then I just briefly want to inform you about the 2 test facilities that we have in Belgium. The first test facility is called Veggietech. It's actually a brand new building which is constructed by Ghent University, and it will be up and running from September onwards. The test site is actually a mini food processing factory. So it will receive big amounts of vegetables and potatoes, and it can do different processing steps like washing, cutting, freezing, frying, blanching, packing, and so on. And from these different stages in the process, we can take water and do research on it, like new sensors, new disinfection technology, new filtration technologies, and so on. So we have the processed water from the vegetable processing. We also have the wastewater, but next to that, we also have a water hall in which we have all kinds of different alternative water sources. We have the river Leyen nearby, so we have surface water, we will collect rainwater, we will have a groundwater well, and so on. And we also have a basement, which with 10 cube vessels, in which we can receive water from other industries and which can then be pumped to the test hall to do research at larger volumes. Okay, and then the second test facility is actually the drinking water production center of the Water group. So they have, of course, different production centers throughout Flanders, but at one particular site, they have a test hall, which you can see in the picture on the right. And in that test hall, they also welcome SMEs to do innovative research on all kinds of processes. And yeah, the labs are adjacent to the building, so they can valorize all the tests with a lot of analytical equipment there. Okay, that's it from my side. I hand over to Ruth again.
Thank you, Charlotte. So both Charlotte and Beata gave a bit more information there on aspects of the water test network, but also about their facilities. And hopefully what you picked up from there is just the sheer differences that we have and we can offer SMEs. And we have had a wide range of SMEs who have applied. Lots of different technologies are already coming through the water test network. We've had recycling technologies for water for greenhouses. We've had biocatalysts to improve the wastewater treatment. We've had microalgae to treat, to do phosphorus removal, sensor technologies, thickening technologies. There really is a wide range we've had so far. And we've been operating since December 2018 in terms of providing these innovation vouchers. And this is the progress we've got so far in terms of applications. We've had 108 technologies applying for support through the project, and the innovation chasers have supported 78 of them so far in doing the detailed testing plans and looking at markets and identifying risks. And then we've approved 39 of those 78 so far to at this stage 2. So we're now we've brought 27 of those 39 to actually start testing. So we've got 11 have actually completed their tests so far, and we've got 16 technologies currently on site at one of the 14 testing facilities across Northwest Europe. So you'll see from the small map on the slide there, we really have had applications from all across Europe and a wide range of technologies. So we do encourage you that if you are interested and have a technology you want to test at TRL 4 to 8, please do contact us and contact one of the lovely innovation chasers in the area. So I'd just like to say thank you on behalf of myself, Beata, and Charlotte, and the rest of the Water Test Network for inviting us to speak today. And if you have any questions, our contact details are on that slide there as well. And I will just stop sharing. So Joseph can maybe take us through any questions if there are any.
Yeah, thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Beate. There was one remark or one question. Who covers the missing 40% which are not funded by Interreg, especially in your case? Maybe that's a question for you, Ruth.
Sorry, the 40% that isn't funded, all of that's support that each of the partners all provide. So if it's the co-financing, 60% from ERDF, and the rest of the funding comes from each of the testing facility, each of the partners.
Okay, I think with this the question is answered. From my side, one question, because we are very interested in the value in water, and you mentioned a lot of things which are fitting in value in water. Did you already have one really new innovation concerning circular economy, new activities, valorization of things which are in the water?
Yeah, I mean, we've got one on site. We've got one that has completed the testing, and it's around phosphorus removal. But we've also we've got others. I know of some of the ones from Scotland, and they're looking at recovering metals and bringing the value from that the waste metals out of the water. So we've had quite a few that have come through with various applications, and a lot of them are very novel and new, at least, well, definitely to me. There's some exciting new ones. The pharmaceutical trial we've got coming on, which was our third Our second innovation challenge was on pharmaceutical removal, and we've got the trial starting on that now, and that's quite an exciting one because that's using algae to remove pharmaceuticals from wastewater. So that's a little bit different, and it's actually a project that is very transnational because it's testing in Scotland, but all the analysis has been done in TZW in Germany. So it's a truly transnational project, that one.
Okay, thank you. And the next challenge concerning the valorization of brines is really a perfect issue, and hopefully, hopefully you get a lot of applications for that.
Yes,
okay,
thank you.
Thanks for this really very interesting presentation, and we will go on in our agenda. And the next one will be Jaap de Best. He's professor for bio-based resources and energy at the Center of Expertise for bio-based economy of Avans University, and he will present us the VOW project, this territorial living lab on value and water. VOW means, well, we say in Germany, wow, that means great. And I see your name is the best, and that means great and the best. Jaap, I will again stop sharing my screen, and I'm really interested in your presentation. Please go ahead.
Okay, I will share my screen. Okay, I hope you can see my screen now.
Not yet.
Not yet. Then I'm going to try it again.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, now it says I'm sharing indeed. So thank you very much for your introduction. Well, I never thought of the combination WOW and the best, but I will keep that in mind. But indeed, the WOW abbreviation was, of course, not for nothing, but I will come back to that later. Well, I was kindly asked to give a presentation today about our WOW project. And well, I can already tell you I don't have any challenges or vouchers to offer to you, but I hope I can tell you a bit more about our WOW project. And at first I was a bit surprised. So why would we be asked as a project to tell something about a living lab? But when I came to think of it, I had to think of a living lab that I'm involved in for already many years, which is a living lab Biobased Brazil, which is a cooperation between the Netherlands and the state of Minas Gerais in Brazil. And well, Matthew already introduced some aspects of the living lab and how they are organized. But what I always think of with living lab is a close cooperation between universities, industries, and governments. So the triple helix in this case. And then I could see many things that matched with our WOW project. And also when I looked a bit deeper into what is a living lab, because of course you can think of the triple helix, but there are many more approaches nowadays for living labs, because there's also the quadruple helix, where they say, okay, besides only including universities, industries, and governments, you can also, or you should also include the users in this. And even more recent, what is often, or what is more said, besides also including the users, you should also include the natural environment as part of your living lab. So it's a much broader aspect that comes into mind. But what I find much more important when you look at the living lab is not so much, okay, what structure do you think of it, but what do you think of, what aspects make a living lab a living lab? And then I always come to these words that for me are the basis of what a living lab is. It's already been touched by some of the previous speakers. So you have, for instance, the open innovation, which was mentioned in the previous presentation, collaboration, co-creation, but also exploration, cooperation, experimentation, communication about your results, about your activity, coalition, and also evaluation of your results. Well, I would like to try to link our project to these terms, which I think are the basis of a living lab. And then, but what I first, of course, would like to do is, because you probably don't know, or maybe some of you will, but Matthew does, but you don't know what the WOW project is like. So I first would like to introduce to you what is the WOW project. So WOW stands for Wider Business Opportunities for Raw Materials from Wastewater. So Joseph just asked the question, did you come up with pilots or test interesting products from wastewater or from sewage? Yes, we did, and I'm going to show you a bit more about this in my presentation. And the WOW project is a Northwest Europe Interreg project, which is a cooperation between 13 partners, and we have 10 associate partners which are involved, divided over the different countries. So the UK, France, Belgium, Luxembourg, Germany, and the Netherlands are involved in this case. Okay, and well, as hopefully most of you already know, we come to consider sewage much more as a valuable resource instead of being it a waste which we have to deal with. And there are already many examples already either on the market or they are still being developed. So, well, on top I put energy towards biomethane, which is already something which is done for quite a long time in sewage treatment plants. But now more and more you also see that there is the recovery of resources from wastewater. So we have, for instance, Caumera, which is a soil improver or a polymer additive, which is derived from the Nereda process in a sewage treatment plant. You can also extract humic acids or phosphorus. And also an example is the recovery of cellulose or even the production of PHA bioplastics, which I will be telling a bit more about later on. But you can also think about clean water, fatty acids, metals, and the use of organic matter. But first of all, I would like to ask you a question because, well, I gave some examples of the reuse of water, but then when you look at it, only less than 1% of the raw materials currently is being reused. And well, I have 5 different options you can choose from. And hopefully, Anka, you were able to show the presentation because I'm not too familiar with Zoom. I must say I always use Teams at my department. So hopefully you can share the question and I hope people can respond to the question. Is something happening that I'm wondering? Julia, do we see a question? Because I can't see the screen.
We only see in the chat EEBB, so I think, yeah, but just
okay.
Go ahead.
Well, then I will just continue. So this is new experience, but I was wondering what you all think of it. So either is it not technically not possible? Is there no market? Is it legally not allowed? Do you think none of the answers are true or are all answers true? Well, in fact, to be clear, none of the answers of the above is true because it is technically possible. We have already shown different pilots where it's possible to recover materials from sewage. There is a market for it. I will show you later on. And also it is legally allowed, but it is not easy. So that's also why we started this project, because that's also why I made the bottom answer light green, because what we recovered or what we saw is that it's not easy to recover materials from sewage. And that's why we started WOW some 3 years ago. And we had 3 three goals. So first of all, we wanted to show more that it's technically possible to recover raw materials from sewage. We also want to let market parties become acquainted with the potential of raw materials from sewage, and we focus on PHA, that's a bioplastic, biodiesel, bio-oil, biochar, and acetic acid. And finally, because as I mentioned, legally, some people think it's not allowed, but it is difficult to have a market for that and to arrange everything legally. So we want to create a European framework for the steps that are needed from sewage to raw material. Well, to be more specific, these are the four things we target. So we wanted to create five value chains for our bioproducts from sewage. We wanted to create 3 pilots for the production of these 5 different materials. We wanted to create a supporting tool to help water authorities in their choices towards a circular approach. And we also wanted to create national action plans and a European legal roadmap to help it make legally easier to recover resources from sewage. So where does a living lab come in? I'll get to that from now on. So first of all, what we started with in the project is we started 3 different pilots. We have one pilot which uses the sewage water to produce biodiesel, and they do it using microthicks and lipid accumulation. We have a second one who uses the cellulose, so basically the toilet paper from sewage to produce via pyrolysis biochar, bio-oil, and acetic acid. And finally, we have a pilot which uses the primary sludge of a sewage treatment plant and bacteria to produce PHA, which is a fully degradable bioplastic. And on the right side, you see already some of the products that are produced in these 3 pilots. Well, when you look at the 3 pilots, so they are transnational, because there's one pilot in Ede in the Netherlands, there's one pilot in Wuppertal, and there's one pilot just across the border in France. And what's important over here, that we have a quite an open collaboration and innovation with these 3 pilots. So the pilots are situated in one country, but we work closely together with other countries there as well. So the pilot in Germany, which is run by the University of Kaiserslautern, has a close cooperation with my university, because we look into the extraction of PHA. So there's lots of collaboration, and of course this also touches the words experimentation and communication. So for instance, last week or 2 weeks ago, within the European Green Week, we organized pilot visits for everyone online, unfortunately still, but next year we hope to also do it offline. So actually pilot visits for people to visit, and we spread a lot of the knowledge that we gain within these projects. And what I also find important to mention here, you see 2 examples. We involve a lot of students, because that's our human capital for the future. So we actively participate them in the different pilots, and not even from Europe, but the student on the left side is a student from Brazil, for instance, who is also participating. Well, then, so that's the pilots, and then the 5 value change. And when you look at the living labs, as I already said, it's a cooperation between companies and universities and governments. So we try to address that by looking at the whole value chain. So from the resource supply, which we have 4 partners involved there. So we have water authorities who supply the sewage in this case, who are interested, so the input of the sewage. We have organizations involved in the resource recovery, which is a mixture of universities being involved, but also companies being involved. We have the raw material processing. So when we have recovered products, which can either be bioplastics or lipids, we have organizations that look into the processing of these materials. And to enhance the collaboration, as I already said, we have the pilot and the pilot visits and several events that we organize. And then finally, towards the manufacturing, we have two organizations, Vito and the Wupperverband, who look at a market study. We look into the business case of the different products that we produce. And we also have brokerage events with people who could use the products that are produced. And at the same time, we also have already some memorandum of understanding of companies who say, yes, we are interested in the products that are produced, and when at larger scale, so we can also start building on a bigger scale. I have to be honest that here, the value chain stops. So the end users of certain products, that's difficult here. So we mainly focus on business to business and not on business to consumer. Well, and here, as I think the different aspects of a living lab that come into mind when you look at the whole value chain approach. Well, this gives an example of how we try to include the market side, so the asking side of the products that we are producing. So we did an extended market studies where we interviewed lots of different companies on what do you need to make the choice in the end to use the products that we recover from sewage. So this is an example for PHA bioplastics. These are all available on our website, by the way, but we have for all of the products that we produced. And more in detail, I think what's important always, what we try to include is what are feasible applications of the product that we produce. How much could you produce if you look into the quantities, because that's always a question. Yeah, it's nice that you can do this, but how much can you produce of this, which is worldwide or focused in this case on northwest of Europe. And finally, also we look into the market price of the conventional products and the prices that we can produce them for. So, well, these touch the first two aspects that we focus on, and then I would like to briefly also look into the final two. So these are mostly focused on the showing that it's technically feasible to produce the products and that there is also a market aspect for it. The third one is the supporting tool, which we produce to help the water authorities at some point to make a decision. Because when you have a sewage treatment plant, you have to make a decision, are we going to start a new technique, yes or no, and is it feasible for us? So what we produced is what we call the decision support tool, which can be used by water authorities or policymakers. And it's a very simple to use tool where you can put in the influence of a sewage treatment plant. So the composition, and you only need a few parameters. So it's not too complicated. And then based on the input parameters that you put in, you get the result whether your influence of the sewage treatment plant is feasible for either producing PHA or producing biodiesel from lipids or producing oil char or acetic acid from cellulose using pyrolysis. And this is what it looks like. The tool will be available after the summer holiday. Then it's also freely available via our website. And it has already been tested by Severn Trent in the UK to test whether it's a feasible technique to use. And what I also would like to mention, because this gives an outcome in whether it's, well, green, yes, you can do it, orange, no, it's not possible, and gray, you need a bit more information. But it also gives aspects about the economics, so how expensive is it, and what, what in the end could deliver to you in euros. What are the environmental aspects of the technique, and also more social information. So is there any noise or smell involved in the technique that you used? So it gives more than just this outcome. And then finally, the fourth aspect that we target on, you hear a lot saying, okay, yes, we have a nice technique, but it's legally very complicated to make this a feasible option. So we also would like to take some steps in there. And we took a 4-step approach. So the first step was we made a legal framework. So this gives an overview of all the legal aspects that come into mind when you recover resources from sewage. Again, this is available on our website. You can imagine that there are other Northwest Europe projects or other Interreg projects that are already finished or also currently running that have good practices on how you could manage this. So we also made an overview of best practices, and based on that, we formulated action plans. In this case, for the 6 countries involved in this project. So for each country, we mentioned specific actions that are needed to make resource recovery from sewage more feasible and more easy. And this is something we discuss with the national policymakers. And based on this, we are currently working on a European roadmap, which is more the main aspects of each of the national plans into a European roadmap. So what is needed in relation to European policies to make it easier to recover resources from sewage. So to conclude, well, since we started as a project, but actually we have a lot of aspects of what is a living lab, as Matthew already mentioned in his introduction, that there are many more Northwest Europe projects that have a lot of aspects of a living lab. So we also do. And I think using the principles of a living lab, so again, the terms that I put here, can greatly enhance your results and also the cooperation within a project. And I think what we try to do here is a participative creation with businesses, governments, resources, researchers, and users. And what I also see is, because of this close cooperation, it leads to more responsible ownership and a sense of urgency within the people involved. And finally, what I think this active communication, what we try to do, enhances the awareness about the value of water and the need to circularity. And we already noticed that a lot of parties try to involve us and also want to be involved in this project. Well, this concludes my presentation, so I will give the word back to you, Joseph.
Thank you very much for this really interesting activities, and you've demonstrated a lot of activities and a lot of different products. Just one question from my side: what from your point of view is the biggest hurdle in the chain from waste to product to market?
Yeah, I think the biggest hurdle is the cooperation between the different parties within the whole value chain. So make sure that you cooperate well, and I think you all need to be willing to change a bit of your current activities or actions that you do, because you have to change your process, or you have to change what you normally do, and that means giving and taking a bit of all the parties. And I think if you work on that in an open communication, and I think that would really help. And I see that's often a hurdle, that everyone sticks to his own business and does not completely cooperate to make the value chain possible.
Okay, that means if you have let's say a stable living lab, then this is a really good tool for the issue value in water.
I think that would really help indeed. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot. I just have a look in the chat. There is one. Sorry again. Where is the chat? The chat is here. What is the most dangerous substance in wastewater from the watch list? Do you have an answer on that?
No, not really.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
We look more at opportunities than dangers in this case.
Okay. Good. Again, thanks to you. Yep. Let's move on in the agenda. And the next presentation we will have is from Jeroen Reinhardt. I do not really know how to pronounce it correctly, your name, but you're since 31 years in the Netherlands, active as environmental engineer from Delft University, and at the moment you're the managing director of CEW. You I assume you will explain what means CEW, Center of Water Technology. Jeroen, it's your turn. I just stopped sharing the screen, and now you can go ahead.
Thank you, Joseph, for your kind introduction. As almost born native German, you just can say Jeroen Reinhardt. So, but maybe that was too obvious for you that you want to pronounce it differently. So we already have seen some various very interesting presentations. So it isn't hard to fall asleep despite the rising temperatures everywhere. So I will try to add something that you will not fall asleep for the next 10 minutes as well. And with a lot of water, it will be. And one of the things which puzzles me after the presentation of Jappe is because in my career, I have worked 25 years in private business and the past 6 years in research, is I always raise the question with parties where it concerns, say, resource recovery and circular economy. Do you know which of whose business you will ruin? And because that is what we want to do. And we are talking about value change, and you need to break down that chain, which is who has an, when your economy is based on a current chain, you are not really in front of someone who will ruin your business. So I will try to give some verbs. I hope that my presentation is, in the meantime, shared.
Yeah, we can see it.
And I will do it on behalf of Water Campus, which I will introduce, also with respect to what we are doing within the connection within Aaron and Enol, on, say, resource recovery and circular economy. And from that perspective, before I will introduce CEW and Water Campus, is that from our point of view, that living labs is something which requires continuation and needs to be aligned with regional strategies. You cannot do it on your own. It must be bonded within other parts. And I will introduce from my side as well Water Test Network. So it really shoots and fits nicely to what Ruth and her colleagues already introduced. So regional innovation ecosystems needs to support demo sites and vice versa. And that includes that also in risk-free strategies in regions. Living labs needs to be a central component. It must be anchored in various strategies. So therefore we strongly support and want to enhance everyone to be part from her living lab within Enol. Water Campus. Water Campus is based on an innovation chain, which starts within TRL, say from TRL 1, including all steps until 9, where science, applied research, and business are part of the ecosystem. And 3 parties will take care of that within Water Campus. It's Vouchers. It's an institute on water research where primarily annually over 70 PhDs are working on, say, really hardcore technology development. And CEW is the part which is bonded to the University of Applied Science in the region, where bachelor students for their internship or their bachelor thesis are applying research activities within the same scope of what their colleagues, PhDs, are doing from Vouchers. And Water Alliance is an alliance of over 150 primarily SMEs in the business. And that is one of the things which is quite typical in the water business, is solution providers are mostly SMEs, and then sometimes really S more than M, where their clients are mostly public or private, it depends on the country, utilities and process industry. So there is a large amount of really small solution providers in SMEs and a few large clients. And that is typical to the water business, where innovation, say, is driven by client needs, and other hand by what solution providers can do. And what we see is that solution providers themselves do not have the facilities to do, say, research on the demonstration site level. So that is what I will go into a more deep dive, the part of living labs. Already introduced by the introduction of Ruth, that in the northern Netherlands, we have access to 6 individual demo sites. And that are permanent locations where on a permanent base, demonstration projects can be located, so that there is a client who is interested in a certain technology and that there is a solution provider who can provide a possible solution. So it is on blue energy, it is on hospital wastewater, and the question just raised, what is the most dangerous part in wastewater? Up to our opinion, the most dangerous part in wastewater are the organic micropollutants, meaning primarily medicine residues, which really endangers our environment. It is not yet part of legislation, but that will become soon more viable, that especially medicine residues will endanger our water safety future. It is on drinking water and distribution in both agriculture as in human nutrition. It is about sensoring, which is of growing importance to water quality, and it is on municipal wastewater treatment. And this is the basis of Water Campus, where we contribute and also make use of Water Test Network. So I will show you 3 examples of the process of TRL 1 to TRL 9, how we contribute. It is already mentioned with my predecessor as well, is the production of biopolymer recovery from sewage. It is a different process, but in the end, it comes to the same possibility, making use of possible resources in a waste stream and provide an opportunity on how bring it to the market. We always do it with partners in the total value chain. So if there is someone missing in the chain, then maybe you can succeed in the technology. But if the end user is not there, then sometimes it is just a waste of money, because then you can go from TRL 1 to 7. But if there is no customer who wants to buy your product, then you end up in what we call the valley of death, and there are quite a lot of casualties already there. That's why it's called valley of death. And that is what we want to prevent. So there always needs to be an end user who wants to buy the product what you presume you want to produce. The second one is the recovery of ammonium from wastewater. And we put it here in a time frame where we started in 2017 with, say, on TRL 1-2 level, which takes about, say, 2 years' time before we were able to produce it on a skid-mounted scale. And recently we started within funding of Water Test Network to a demonstration scale. So that is already 2021. And that is 4 years of investment and testing, where the final step of demonstration is quite expensive, because then you have to build a containerized unit. So quite some CapEx is concerned. And that is where I will conclude of what is necessary. The last verb is the phosphate recovery from sewage sludge. And what was of interest in this is that we made use of technology transfer from mining industry to the wastewater industry, which shows us that a researcher has the habit that he wants to invent it all himself. But if you are shopping in other sectors, sometimes you will find that there is already technology available and sometimes already equipment available, which you can make perfect use of in a total different sector. And this is one of the nice examples where, say, technology and equipment of the mining industry was fit for purpose in a complete new technology in wastewater production, e.g. in recover resources. So coming to financing of all this, Interreg Northwest Europe Water Test Network is already introduced, so it is nice that I could give from our side some examples where this fits, because if you have an installed base of demonstration sites, then continuous business is of the utmost importance. You cannot run a demonstration site with 2 clients a year, which hire your plant for 2 weeks, because that's not possible. So you need a continuous flow of contracts. And what you see is those parties are able to pay part of it themselves, but because of the situation that they are within the valley of death, they do not have the financial capabilities, because most of them are SMEs, for financing. So we are always looking for funding opportunities. And what the nice thing of Water Test Network and VIDA, that's the second one, is what we call, it is Cascade Funding. So for an SME itself, it is hard to obtain European funding. But the way of how Water Test Network and VIDA partners behave is that we lower the threshold for SMEs to have access to European funding. And we do it by means of vouchers. And Ruth already introduced the Wtn Voucher System within VIDA, which is an Horizon Europe Intercept 1 project. So that is direct support to SMEs. We developed a voucher scheme which varies from starting from 5,000 euros until 250,000 euros, where we primarily got the remark of the Commission, why put so much effort in a 5,000 euro voucher, because the cost of submitting a voucher may rise above the value of the voucher. But what we have witnessed is that for especially small companies, a little amount of only 5,000 euros can really contribute to a specific question they have. So they do not always need a large amount of money. So for them, 5,000 euros is already a lot of money. And what we were able to is give a very low access for them for 5,000 euros. So that part of VIDA, where projects within the food, water and energy nexus were part of the deal, we saw that especially for small companies, which are abundantly available within water technology, also small amount of money really contributes that they can make a specific step in their innovation process. And that is where I want to conclude that for living labs, you need continuous business. Doing one time a living lab, it costs a lot of money, and after the funding is over, it will evaporate and there will be nothing left. And what Water Test Network and VIDA shows us is that a voucher scheme gives very low threshold access for SMEs for performing their innovation in their final steps of entering the market. So that is what we really want to support in future think about what is necessary for SMEs and think about what is necessary for a living lab to have continuous business. So that's what I want to conclude with. Thank you for your attention. If there are any questions, I think all the presentations will be present for the attendees, then you have my contact details.
Thank you, Aaron, for your presentation. I just want to have a short look in the chat. There's no further question. We're a little bit running out of time and we already lost about 20 people. It seems to be getting hotter and hotter. Therefore, I suggest to just move on because we have 2 remaining presentations which are very important in order to have a further look what is Water Europe doing and further real stable examples. Therefore, I would like to introduce Wim van Viersen. He is a former professor as biophysics, and he's the former director of KWR, and now he has different positions. One of them is he's the vice president of innovation in Water Europe, and Water Europe especially looks on Living Lab as a tool for innovation, and that's the reason why we've you here in order to give you an insight on the vision and the Living Labs of Water Europe. Again, Wim, I will stop my screen sharing and now it will be your turn.
Can I share my screen now?
Yeah, you can share it.
Is this visible?
Not yet.
Okay.
Now we see, yeah.
Okay, well, this is a little bit of a different presentation from the others because I'm Vice President Innovation and I would like to explain to you what we are doing in Water Europe and why we are doing this on the level of Living Labs. Now, the Vice President Innovation is responsible for strategic policy proposals in the field of innovation. And this field of innovation has 3 different dimensions, I would say. One is that I have to work on the water-oriented living labs because we had a report on, we made an atlas on WALLS, water-oriented living labs. We saw there was a great variety of and a diversity in how people look at living labs, all very valuable. Not one better than the other, but there was a great diversity and the members would like to know what is Water Europe going to do, because we decided at board level and at members level that we would like to work on the implementation of technology. That means that we would like to see a water smart society by helping to implement water technologies in Europe. Now, that means that we had to come up with an instrument that would support Water Europe members to participate in water-oriented living labs. There's a second dimension. It was also decided that we would like to see an international water dialogue. That means building bridges with non-European countries. And that originates from the fact that a couple of years ago, Water Europe was asked by the Commission to team up in the context of the water platforms of the Commission, like the China Europe water platform, very active in shaping the dialogue on water issues between China and Europe. But these are, from a logical point of view, very much oriented towards policy. So we thought we would like to add to this international dimension by coming up with something not related to policy orientation, but to implementation. And thirdly, there was the need and the desire of the board and the members to do more on digitalization and digital twinning. So actually, this is my portfolio. Now let's look at the water-oriented living labs as a key instrument. We define them, and I know there are many different definitions, but we have this mouthful of definition, user-centered, open innovation ecosystem based on a systematic user co-creation approach. Well, you can read it, public-private, people partnerships, integrating research, but at the end of the day, what we would like to do is to act at the higher levels in the TRL, so really implementation oriented. Now, there are 3 vice presidents working in Water Europe in 3 different domains. There is one, a top-down approach, and that is from the advocacy program. It's the vice president for advocacy, and he works on what we would say hard law and the framework directives. It's sort of top-down approach. And the other 2 vice presidents, one on research, technology, and development, is working on research, bottom up with the working groups in Water Europe. And the other one, that's myself, is working on the implementation, also bottom up, citizens engagement. So it means what we try to do is to develop synergistic action programs, both on the side of the advocacy and on the other hand, bottom up from the research side and the implementation side. Now, also always read live, so it means water-oriented demo type and platform type of environments of cross-sector nexus approach. Testing, validating. Now, you know all these terminologies, and what we try to do is to build something to that end. We came up eventually by the Water Europe Living Lab as a brand, because we said what we would like to do. We like to be very modest in our approach, but we would like to sort of really build living labs bottom up with a lot of citizens engagement. So here are the characteristics of a long-term relationship is entered into between Water Europe and a well. Could be a city, could be something else, but at least a regional context where we really link up with the problems that are relevant in the area. We would like to have a strategic plan with these well partners, water smart goals, and citizens' involvement. So again, it's this top-down and bottom-up sort of approach. Resources jointly raised to execute an implementation plan linked to the strategic plan. Now, what we would like to do, of course, is to involve our members. And so what we are aiming at is to promote the Living Lab as a sort of criterion for Horizon Europe in the future to allocate money to. And of course, there's the Water for All program and the Process for Planet initiative in Europe, and we would like to link up with them. Now, one of the advantages for the end users would be that Water Europe intends to make all the previous results out of the Horizon 2020 program, also the future Horizon Europe program, available to the well partners, because we think there's a lot of work has been done. Some has been implemented, some is simply there, but on the shelf. It's not being used, let's be honest. And we think that it would be valuable to brief all the local partners on what has been done in the past. Also to explain that Europe is doing something they can benefit from. Now, wells, of course, are always supported locally and in line with current local policy. Now, what's next? Because there's a lot of bureaucracy, but simply to shape the agenda of Water Europe. Well, my term ends tomorrow. There will be a new Vice President Innovation. He will coordinate all the well activities on a strategic level. And the Vice President Research, Technology and Development will coordinate the input from the working groups at the strategic Water Europe level for the wells. So we would like to see that Water Europe partners are becoming partners in well projects. Also because they will be in projects and could recover the costs of their research activities. Now, of course, you have a strategic plan, implementation plan, and Water Europe is going to set aside funds to support these teams because we think it's a lot of work to build it. Would be long-term commitments to local entities and consortia of local entities. So we need a long-term perspective. And of course, we would like to aim at the Horizon Europe opportunities, and we will guide the members of Water Europe through the through the initial phases to see projects being realized on the level of a living lab. Now we foresee for the future 3 different phases. We are going to appoint what we call a quartermaster, so a person who prepares starting the well activities. Then there will be a development phase in which a very few number of candidates will be selected for the verticals, as we call them. One vertical is the municipalities. Of course, another vertical is the industry, and a third one is rural areas. And then after that, there will be an implementation phase. We think that in autumn 2021, we will be ready to start, because we're also looking into something like, we call it a wellness fund, a well business fund for living labs, which should be a revolving fund in which we could finance the initial phases of well development. Well, it goes without saying that Water Europe is also going to support the existing walls, because wells will be very specific initiatives. And of course, we have very experienced walls in Europe that could be assisted in promoting the ways they went in the past. But we would like, with the wells, we would like to focus on there where the added value would be most. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the perspective and the activities of Water Europe, especially what you've done within Water Europe as Vice President of Innovation. And thank you for the work you've done. I've realized tomorrow there will be a new responsibility elected, and I think the way we'll go forward, especially in the direction of the well initiatives of Water Europe. There's one question, let me see what is in the chat, just a moment. There's a question, will selected wells become wells, or will they be new? Could you answer that?
Yes, I can answer. Wells will be new, in the sense that we would like to build wells according to a number of, well, I would say, rules of the game. Could be very small initiatives to start with. But as I said, we will keep supporting the development of walls, regular walls. But you can imagine that in the International Water Dialogue, where we decided to also support the well development in neighboring countries or regions like Northern Africa, that is, I think, quite different from the, I cannot say the traditional, but all the diversity we've seen in Europe on walls. I mean, in Northern Africa or the Middle East, it's probably a different game. But we are not going to ignore all the developments around walls. So we will keep supporting as Water Europe the development of walls. It goes without saying.
Okay, thank you for this clarification. There's still 1 or 2 questions in the chat, but I would like to go ahead because we are running, or we're almost out of time, and we have one interesting presentation which opens a discussion about the future of living labs, and Jens Prism has really practical examples, experiences, especially personally as international project manager in CALL in Copenhagen, and of course within Water Europe, because you, Jens, you're the vertical vision leader within the team of water smart cities, and there especially the living labs are very important. Again, I will stop sharing my screen, and Jens, now you have the floor.
Thank you. I'll try to share my screen. I'm not very familiar with Zoom either. Normally I use Teams, but I don't know whether this is working.
There's a green button at the...
Yes, I pressed that, but
and then that opens a window, then you can select what
okay.
Yeah, it works. You have to go to the presentation.
Here we are.
Perfect.
Very easy. Well, thank you. Yeah, we're running late, and in 21 minutes, Belgium
and Denmark is playing soccer at the European Championship. So I suppose some of us would like to watch the telly. Anyway, I'll give you a brief introduction to Call Copenhagen, and as a start for this this final discussion. What happens now? This was not meant to be. How do I delete this thing? Can you see this calendar as well?
Yeah, we see now in one part your presentation, and the other part.
Try clicking on the presentation.
Here we try it again.
Okay, we can now see. Yeah,
I think it's there now.
Yeah.
So a brief history of Call Copenhagen. Call is Climate Adaptation Living Lab Copenhagen, and that was actually just to give you a bit of introduction to our business concept. We have this model you see on the right hand side, where we try to, if there's somebody has a climate adaptation problem, we try to, and they come to us, we try to identify what is the market potential and are there any specific innovation needs to be done. And we try to team up some innovative members and partners, and we try to facilitate the innovation actions. We also try to find places to demonstrate the solutions in full scale and document what are the effects of these new solutions, and also develop implementation strategies and business models and try to disseminate the knowledge. This is the full sort of activities we do, but in many projects we only do part of that. Why Call Copenhagen? You may remember that in 2011, the greater part of Copenhagen was actually flooded during heavy cloudbursts, and the municipality could then foresee very big investments to make sure that this would not happen again. And even you can see the forecast of cloudbursts coming more frequent. So there were a lot of costs to do climate change adaptation in that area. So the idea and the discussion started how to enhance technology development and how can we have new solutions which are cheaper than the current ones we know, and how to bring the demand and the supply together. The demand will typically be in the utility sector and municipal sector, and supply, of course, will be in industry, but also universities and similar organizations. And then somebody had the nice idea of, can we make this an export possibility as well? So that was a pre-analysis started to find out how can we do this. And based on that, the capital region of Denmark, they agreed to fund an in-depth study of a living lab model. You see on the right-hand side, the main actors in that activity. H is the region. Hofer is the biggest water utility in Denmark, serving the greater Copenhagen area. Municipality of Copenhagen. Novafoss is the second largest water utility, covering the suburbs of north of Copenhagen. DANVA is the Danish Water and Wastewater Association, and DI is the Federation of Danish Industries. So these were all either part of or in the steering group of this analysis. And then based on that, we set up in 2018 Call, at that time a project organization with this support. And the region kindly gave 0.9 million euros to support these activities, to develop the concept and set up the living lab structure and so on until end of October 21. And after that, there's no more support. So you get the pistol in your bag right from the beginning, which I think is a very, very sound approach, actually. Of course, you can, along the way, we try to get additional funding from different projects when we work with industrial and municipal partners. Then in February 2020, DNNK was a network based on a network of sharing and developing know-how within climate change adaptation, where typically a lot of members were from industry, from regions, municipalities, utilities. They emerged with the core project into one legal entity, which now have two legs. You can say during this, from this one leg is where all the knowledge sharing is taking part, and ideas for new projects, ideas, investigations will come up when municipalities, utilities, and industry and universities, they meet. And the other leg then is the old call, so to say, where we actually try to do projects to develop new technologies. Currently then we have a staff of 8 man-years. It's not 8 full-time employees, people working on projects going in and out, but 50% of that is funded by these membership fees, being part of that network, and the 50% is by projects where we find funding somewhere in different sources. But then this March, an MOU has been signed between all the regions, large cities and utilities in the metropolitan area of Greater Copenhagen. That is actually also the part of Sweden which is close to the Øresund. So you have actually now a Danish-Swedish MOU in a region with 4.4 million people on both sides of the Øresund. And the purpose of that MOU is to support the development of a leading LL, a living lab for demonstration and commercialization of climate adapted for climate adaptation projects. So what started as a unit specifically serving the Greater Copenhagen region, actually on the Danish side, we came into this network where a lot of possible partners and clients and users are already, and actually they are also from the western part of Denmark in that network. And now we go into Sweden actually to try to develop now a model for a living lab which will cover the Danish and the Swedish side, that's the eastern part of Denmark and the western part of Sweden. And that has just started that process, how to organize and how to do and how to fund and so on. So we are actually moving from nothing 5 years ago to this current stage. That was a bit fast, but if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Thank you, Jens, for this very brief overview. What's going on in Denmark and Copenhagen, especially? Just have a look in the chat. There's not a question. There's just a remark saying thank you for this presentation. If you can stop sharing your screen, Jens, then we can move ahead, because I have realized you want to look the football game, which starts in 10 minutes. So we should close the session and let's say just wrap up. But I do not want to extend the whole session again. Jens, for your time and for your efforts. What we have learned today is, from our perspective of the Vision Leader team of Value in Water, living labs are useful tools for the exploration of value in water. And they are the key for water and water smart society. That means they're the key for the vision of Water Europe. And for a living lab, you need a good and stable partnership. You need demonstration sites. You need, at the end, a long-term commitment and long-term vision. And let's say a financial stability in order to have a continuing business at the end of the day. So that would be the conclusion. I think we do not go into any further discussion because we are really far out of time. I would like to thank all the presenters for the really very interesting presentations. I would like to the organization of this workshop for Water Europe. Would like especially Julia, she has managed to bring all the people together. And I would give my both colleagues the chance to say also some, let's say, summarizing words. Francesco, from your side, do you have any further issues and further remarks?
Yeah, thank you very much, Joseph, and thanks to all the speakers. It's clear how the water-ready living labs were tested within projects, and now it's crucial. Many of the questions were about what about the life of living labs after the project. So with these questions, we have to think how to make them institutional, how to engage public organization practically, how to make them part of the ordinary work of the public organization, of the water authorities, of the regulatory bodies in our living labs. But this way we can really have this innovation circle ongoing. And it will be also crucial to exchange good and best practice because living labs, of course, are local, but we have to think about replication and transfer of good practice. So how to improve the living lab experience, North, South Europe, East and West. This should be something in our strategy within Water Europe. So I think this is the added value of Water Europe. Thank you.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Francesca and Julia, do you have any additional remarks?
Maybe just a last comment. So living labs are bringing together different participants and different stakeholders. We've learned collaboration is key. And yeah, I think this is the main message today. And with that, I would like to thank you for your participation, and we're looking forward to seeing you next time again.
Okay, so let's work together on a water smart society and using the collaboration between living labs. Thank you all for your time, and hopefully you will have a nice evening and a nice rest week and then a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.